Remember what it was like to be a kid? To explore and play. To roam free all day. In Jamestown, North Carolina, we get out of the grind and escape into the moment. People feel good here. Let loose here. Eat well here. Feel swell here. We go for a ride or an afternoon stroll. We cheer each other on. And go for the goal. Here, a treasured history meets the energy of a town on the rise. In a place with true heart and soul, and where we have our own special beat. Jamestown, North Carolina, where history and possibility meet.
I'm Russell Walker, acting as the Vice Chair of the Planning Board, and I'll call this meeting to order and ask Ms. Weiner to call a roll.
Yes, Russ Walker.
Here.
Denise Johnson. Here. Jane Walker Payne. Here. Dennis Shaw.
Here.
John Capes.
Here.
Robert Kuhn.
Here.
Donald Dell Jr. is absent. Peggy Levi. Here. Sherry Richmond is absent. Susan Stringer. Here. William McLean Jr.
Here.
And Council Representative Burgess is present. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Let's see, the next item on the agenda is for an amending of the meeting schedule. Anna?
Good evening, Planning Board.
Good evening.
We are asking to amend the regular meeting schedule for the May meeting. This room will be used for the second primary early voting, so it will be full of voting machines on May 13th. Therefore, we are asking to amend the regular meeting schedule with a May 20th Planning Board meeting for May.
You need a motion. Anna, do you need a motion?
Motion to amend the May 13th Planning Board meeting to May the 20th in lieu of the voting machines.
I'll second.
Any discussion of that very limited motion? Is it a voice vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item on the agenda are public hearings. And the first one, it regards the parcels on Guilford College Road. And Anna, are you ready?
Yep. As you know, last month was a rezoning case was brought forward for 1903, 1905, 1915 Guilford College Road. That's these two parcels here are shown between Chadwick Drive and Hickory Hollow Road. The request is for a rezoning from single-family residential to conditional zoning multifamily residential. It's a total of 18.7 acres on this parcel. Matt was kind enough to present in my place last month as I had a stomach bug. I've been able to watch it on YouTube and understand there's a lot of concerns, rightfully so. At that time, this was the plat that was shown, the sketch plan. And since then, we received on March 26th, not that long ago, a revised plan that is shown here with an entrance moved onto Guilford College Road. Respectfully, that is the only change that staff was really able to see. It's still 99 townhomes. There's similar conditions listed with just a few additions based on that change. Because we had a lot of concerns that were unanswered, including a reduction in units. We had concerns. Staff recommended that after a TRC meeting, several changes to better align with the comprehensive plan, including a reduction in units, guest parking, sidewalks on both sides of the street, height recommendations for the proposed berm, and a condition on materials and/or design, among with several technical standards. No additional information or answers to the planning board questions have been provided to applicant at those times on those matters or any others that were brought up. Therefore, staff would be recommending not approval at this time. However, we heard from the applicant yesterday, and they have requested a continuation of this hearing to better align their plan with those concerns. Staff believe it is reasonable to allow for continuation of the hearing to the meeting on the 20th next month, to provide the applicant time to present a revised plan to better meet the concerns of the public, board, and staff. That's what I have for you today. Most of the other information has not changed from last month. So at this time, the applicant, I believe, is present to give you more information.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. David B. Coe.
He didn't
We need
miss
to get
anything.
an address and all that stuff. Is that the way we do things here?
Is what?
Do you need a name and address and so forth?
No.
Okay, David B. Coe, P.O. Box 36, Wahlberg, 27373. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I respectfully request that we be allowed one more month to continue to interact with staff. Jamestown Engineering, operating on our behalf, has made some progress, made some changes. There's been interaction with NCDOT and also various potential sources for water, public water supply. And it's been a quick month, it's been a busy month, and work remains undone. And we respectfully request to be continued one more month and hopefully bring you something that could potentially be approved by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vico, I'm curious about something. When the representative was here last month talking about the plan and the way things were laid out, we shared some concerns relating to the number of units. We shared some concerns with the ingress, egress, and how everything was coming out onto Chadwick Drive. And the only thing I see that's changed is one point of ingress, egress going out now onto Guilford College Road, and there's absolutely nothing going onto Chadwick. Now, when this was put together, did you feel that this was adequate to service 99 units?
We understand that state fire code calls for one entrance being acceptable up to 99 units. That's our understanding of rules, state rules of
And that's why we didn't go to 100 on this, right?
That's right. Well, I mean, you might could squeeze one more in there, but you might could, yeah.
Right. And so if we were to extend this another, basically to another meeting, my question is what would be done differently from what we talked about in the last meeting? Because there's been, we've had several weeks now, and I know the request was just put in very recently. So I'm trying to understand what's going to be different. I mean, are we going to see a totally revised plan with, different number of units, or what do you foresee?
I don't foresee a substantial, to be quite honest with you, I don't see a substantial change in the number of units. I do see a potential change in the overall layout with perhaps another or different connection point,
Right.
but I don't see a substantial change in the number of units, sir, I don't.
Okay, all right. That's all I have at the moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes,
When would you expect, if you did a revised plan, when would you expect to get it to us? I mean, you wouldn't want to get it to us like on the 19th, so we wouldn't have any time to
No,
look at it.
I have a tentative meeting. You may or may not choose to continue this tonight. I request that you do, but you may or may not choose to do that. Contingent upon your approval of doing that, I do have a meeting that I'll attend personally with Anna on this Thursday at 11. I'll get my engineer to attend, and we'll hopefully at least a week before a prior meeting, maybe a little more if I can.
But what kind of changes do you anticipate if it's not units?
Water connection and
That's it?
potentially some roadway connection change.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Is there any consideration to widen the road, considering that there would be 100 cars on a very narrow road which might have parking in it too?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I'd like to see a materials palette,
Materials,
absolutely,
yes, ma'am.
before the 20th.
Accompanying the site plan,
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
a materials palette, neighborhood amenities, everything.
okay, folks, we've got a request to continue this hearing for a month. Anybody inclined to make a motion?
I do have a question before we go to that next step. As far as continuation of the hearing, were we going to continue with that first, or were we going to talk on the continuation piece of it? I thought that would wrap up at the end of the hearing.
Well, we need to open the public hearing to allow people to speak, and then you guys will have a chance to discuss it before a motion.
Okay.
So we're reopening the public hearing?
So you'll open the public hearing and allow people
Okay.
to speak.
Right,
yeah.
sorry, I just,
All right.
we need to
I
kind of
appreciate
find out for it.
all the help I can get.
You got it, you're good.
Have we got some folks signed up that want to speak?
If you'd like to speak, just come forward, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is James Bowman. I live with my wife Jill at 201 Chadwick Drive in Jamestown. We've lived there for over 32 years. It's where we raised our 2 children. We moved here because of the unique charm and character of Jamestown. There are many reasons for you to deny the rezoning request. Most significantly, it's just too dense. It does not conform to the current homes and aesthetics of the surrounding properties, and it does not conform to the envisioned Jamestown comprehensive plan. My thanks to the committee members and staff who were part of the development of the comprehensive plan. It's an impressive document that obviously a lot of work went into. The plan contains a section titled Our Vision for the Future, which contains some guiding principles. Here are a few of the quotes from the guiding principles of the plan. Ensure that development is compatible with the surroundings from both use and aesthetics perspective. Avoid introduction of generic and monotonous development styles that detract from Jamestown's unique sense of place and small-town charm. Protect established neighborhoods from encroachment by adjacent incompatible land use through appropriate zoning regulations. Protect connected tracts of open space from development to preserve wildlife habitat and to protect the environment. During my review of the plan, I specifically looked for any guiding principles that might support the proposed development. I found none. The increased density of the plan is not compatible with the median situation that we have on Guilford College Road. Whether traffic flows from Chadwick, whether it flows from Guilford College Road, every exit requires a U-turn. Multiple U-turns are inherently dangerous to begin with, and multiple U-turns when cars are lined up behind each other to make U-turns is going to create a traffic problem with that dense of development. There's no way around that. Jamestown is presently going through major changes with the current development of the Johnson property. I believe it would be in the best interest of Jamestown to avoid approving any rezoning that would further impact the Guilford College Road corridor until you are able to assess the impact of the new Johnson property development on the town. Finally, I would also like to oppose a continuance. I do concede and appreciate the fact that the developer did not oppose the continuance when we requested it, but we only had a matter of days. Our notice had been less than 7 days. We're into this for 2 months now. We have a speaker who's here from Charlotte who's going to speak. It may be difficult to arrange that person to come back. I think you need to hear them, and I think it would put us at a disadvantage. The 2 months has been adequate time. Please follow the comprehensive plan and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Bowman.
you.
Next person wants to speak, please come forward.
Good evening. I'm Jan Blue, and my husband Scott and I live on Hickory Hollow Road. We had expressed our thoughts to the previous development plan for the Horse Farm property, with our highest concerns being over the density, the high density, and its impact on traffic, on safety, and the poor aesthetics that it would provide. We have reviewed the updated development plan, which has made no changes to this at all, aside from changing the entrance. Please remember that the Chadwick residents have to turn right and make an immediate left U-turn if they want to travel south on Guilford College Road. We live on Hickory Hollow Road, and we have the ability to turn left, but very often we have to use that same U-turn in times of heavy traffic, which is already exist in that area. And we're talking about the potential for an additional 150 to 200 cars making that same traffic shift. In referencing the Envision Jamestown Comprehensive Plan, please note the guiding principles number 2 and 11, which first state, we will work diligently to promote and maintain the quality of life and aesthetic standards that our residents expect in Jamestown. Guiding principle number 11 refers to the quality and the health of the natural environment. 99 two-story townhomes do not equate with high-quality growth nor maintaining current aesthetics in this area, and we have critical and protected watersheds that are located on the horse farm that limit the amount of development that's even allowed. As in our previous statement, I remind you of the paragraph on page 34 of the Envision Plan under the suburban residential section where it says, quote, "It is intended to be developed in a manner similar to adjacent suburban residential development. Neither of the plans that are submitted by this developer adhere to that vision statement or the guiding principles of the Envision Plan, as it will create the following. Number one, the additional traffic problems which impact the current residents of the area, as well as for school buses and emergency personnel. Number two, the adverse impacts that it would create on the critical and the protected watersheds. Number three, the poor aesthetic quality, as these are two-story units and there has been no communication regarding the design of these units. This calls into question if these units would end up being wrapped in vinyl siding like you see in the ones that are on Mackey Road, which no one wants. We are concerned that low-quality builders such as Pulte will end up being involved with this project. They already swooped in and took over the 22 units that are currently in progress at the end of Chadwick Road. Personally, we don't want to see the property developed at all. One of the reasons we bought our house was because of the beauty of the land behind us and, yes, the serenity of watching the horses. But at the very least, we are asking you to say no to this rezoning request and leave the property zoned for single-family use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Jenny Wagner. I live at 102 McFarland Court in Jamestown. So according to the Envision Jamestown Comprehensive Plan from 2021, guiding principle number 1 states that we ensure that the infill development is compatible with the surroundings from both a use and aesthetic perspective. The proposed subdivision is a direct opposition of this. The designs are surrounded, the horse farm are all homes on 1 acre plus on Hickory Hollow, Chadwick, and McFarland, and even across the street on Guilford College. So they also, the first guiding principle states to avoid the introduction of a generic and monotonous development style, both site development patterns and architectural, that distract from Jamestown's unique sense of place of a small town and the small town feeling charm. 99 townhomes built on such a high density on such a small parcel will be the definition of generic. So the guiding principle number 6 also states that requiring the development and the neighborhood parks, having neighborhood parks and green space, there is no plan for green space, parks, amenities on this plan at all. And in answering your questions and asking for a continuance, there's no plan in the future to add those. The idea that the only viable way to develop this property is to have multifamily is false. 2 single-family homes were just sold on both sides of this property. There is a demand for single-family homes with large lots. The Johnson Farm subdivision is already supplying Jamestown with a number of multifamily homes. We request that the lot be developed matching the surrounding homes with abundant green space and allow for good drainage. Jamestown needs new subdivisions to match the surrounding designs with unique character that we have. So please say no to this request for rezoning and encourage the builder to come back with single-family home plan with large lots that match the unique character of our neighborhood. By saying no and following the guiding principles of this comprehensive plan, you are representing our community who deserve your representation and not representing the builder who's just out to make money. I also again say that we do not continue his plan because in answering your questions, all of our concerns are not addressed in his want for continuance. There's no desire to reduce the number of units or add amenities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Eric James, and I live on 6314 Hickory Hollow. And again, we're asking that you deny this rezoning because of multiple accidents. Now, February the 8th, I was T-boned off of Stonewick and Guilford College. And I'm resulting in I'm having spinal problems. I also have to have injections on Tuesday of next week, on Wednesday of this week. And as I was coming home on March the 27th, in that area, I'm always leery. Where I see the state trooper lights are on at that time. The same accident happened on March 28th, the exact same accident. So this is why I'm asking that this zoning be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Perry Hubbard. I live at 6312 Hickory Hollow Road. And I just wanted to briefly cover 2 things. In your plan, it says protect established neighborhoods from encroachment by adjacent incompatible land use through the appropriate zoning regulations. Even I can understand that one. And my final note, because these guys are covering everything. The horse farm is a Class 4 water supply watershed. Some of it is designated critical and protected. I took a walk where they plan to have the runoff from this. The stream literally is this big. There would be more than considerable riparian damage if they do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Leanne Love, and my husband Pat and I live at 99 Chadwick Drive. One of my main concerns is going to walk off what he just said.
one of my concerns comes from Jamestown's guiding principle number 11, water quality. I think because natural flooding occurs on the horse farm from rainfall events, it is reasonable for citizens to argue against the rezoning to high-density housing. Jamestown should consider current land use and impacts to residents if high-density housing is allowed. Residents should expect adequate stormwater collection, adequate erosion and sediment control while construction is occurring, and require for any builder to leave enough vegetation or limit impervious structures such as parking, pavement, and buildings. So stormwater runoffs can be adequately addressed and will not impact current residents and land use. Since this area already floods naturally after rainfall events, high-density housing should not be allowed in this area. Something that conforms to the current land use is more reasonable with restrictions on runoff and allowance for enough vegetation and undisturbed land so appropriate drainage can occur is more suitable. And one other thing, somebody had mentioned school buses. As a school teacher and a mother, I am very concerned about school buses with 150 to 200 more cars coming down that road and children having to get on school buses. But, you know, unfortunately, people don't pay attention to stops on school buses all the time, and that is a major concern for me. Thank you for your time, and please vote no to rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Maxine Fisher, 203 Chadwick Drive. My husband and I built our home on this property 43 years ago because of the zoning in this area, which was and is of now single-family residential. This area is rural in nature. When we and the other property owners in this immediate area built our homes, it was with the understanding that the zoning of the property all around us would ensure us of the setting that we desired. We rely on our planning board and the town council to ensure that new development around us will be in compliance with the zoning that's in place and in accordance with the Jamestown Comprehensive Plan, which is a very good plan. I compliment you all on what you drew up in 2021. We feel that we all developed according to the required zoning, and we have no objection to a developer who will develop this land in accordance with the current zoning and in keeping with the neighborhood surrounding it and in keeping with the aesthetics of Jamestown and in compliance with the comprehensive plan for this area. The proposed developer has stated that he wouldn't want this near him and that he's privileged to live in a rural area. Well, we are also privileged to live in a rural area at this time, but he wants to put this high-density project right in our front yard. We rely on our planners and councilmen to protect us, the current residents, from just this sort of thing. This area already has water drainage problems, and with the destruction of all the trees at that extension of Chadwick Drive and the leveling of that hilly terrain, the water problems are pretty severe right now. When it rains, we now have running water through our front yard, which we did not have prior to the clearing of that land. This proposed project would clear cut and level land in order to obtain that density. This property has a lot of sloping areas, which could be suitable for single-family homes, some with basements, which without disturbing the topography and the lay of the land. Again, as residents of this area, we rely on our planning board to ensure us the quality of life that we have come to appreciate and to protect us from out-of-town developers who would come in and develop to standards not in keeping with the surrounding area nor according to the Jamestown Comprehensive Plan. We respectfully request that the Jamestown Planning Board members reject this rezoning request and to grant us, the people who live in this area, the continued present zoning. I also request that we not have a continuance of this because this is very taxing on all of us to have to keep coming before the board. And as he said, to make this work for them, they need the 99 units. The development that's going up on Mackey Road only has 85 units. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
name is Keith Wagner, and I live at 102 McFarland Court in Jamestown. First off, I want to say thank you to the town of Jamestown staff. It is heartening to see the 180-degree turnaround on the recommendation from last meeting to this one. I do not agree with him that this parcel is appropriate for such a high-density townhome neighborhood, but it is nice to see them change their mind on needing more information. As a Guilford County resident who lives in an ETJ zone, it is hard to feel like you are being represented by anyone, and this change in their decision is a pleasant one. Thank you also for allowing the continuance from last meeting as well. Everyone feels much better prepared and has a better idea of the process. We had about 6 days to digest that packet last time. On the latest planning document, the staff mentioned their consultation with the fire marshal on the proposed subdivision and the road access. I'm curious, was the question asked about the need for access to an additional entry if the property remains single family? My understanding is the code for the subdivision only needs 2 entries if there are more than 100 homes, and with single family zoning, 1 entry and exit would be sufficient, which would also match the surrounding neighborhoods. Guiding principle number 10 states, ensure the residents of the ETJ are included and consulted on matters that affect their neighborhoods and encourage their participation in the social and civic life of Jamestown. From my point of view as someone that lives in an ETJ zone, we are notified after the plan is made and not included in the planning of the subdivision. If ETJ representatives are included in these TRC meetings, sorry, lots of initials, at what point are ETJ representatives reaching out to affected residents asking for our input to help plan this community? On March 28th, I sent an email out to all the ETJ reps, and I did hear back from 2 representatives, and thank you for that input. It was nice to be heard. I cannot vote for the town council members who will ultimately decide on how I enjoy my property. I am not consulted on future plans that will affect the enjoyment of my property until after the plans are made. The town of Jamestown put a huge amount of effort and energy into the Envision Jamestown plan. You have a roadmap for our future which shows this parcel being single-family residential, which matches the surrounding homes in the ETJ areas. You have the opportunity to mold this parcel into a premier neighborhood for Jamestown. Please follow the plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I sent a packet out to the,
Your name and address, please, sir.
I will, Terry Cullen, 101 Chadwick Drive, Jamestown.
Thank you.
I sent out a packet that deals with this, and so you have that in front of you. And also, I sent along an additional cheat sheet, so you know exactly what we're proposing. Both of those are in front of you. We are seeking the planning board unanimous negative denial of this request. They show a sketch to illustrate their plans for rezoning the Jamestown Equestrian Center. We have an illustration to show what their sketch is really look like. The request fails to comply with the Jamestown extraterritorial jurisdiction or regulations in the Jamestown land development ordinances. This area has been designated single-family residence and has a minimum 10,000 square foot lot. It also does not say it might be something else. It says specifically single-family residential. The zoning request of 5.2 units per acre in the middle of a protected single-family zone with 1.0 density is way beyond acceptable. And it's a good example of illegal spot zoning. Take a trip down Mackey Road and look at the vinyl shacks being put up by Pulte Homes. This is the type of construction that's not compatible to our community. We do not want this type of view on Guilford College Road to be the entrance to Jamestown. The plan ignores several envisioned Jamestown Comprehensive Planning Guide principles which you've heard, including principle number 1. They do not maintain the existing character of the surrounding residential community. It fails to ensure the development will continue in both use and aesthetics for the surrounding community. The designs are to avoid generic, monotonous site plans and architecture. This proposal has row after row of same vinyl-sided buildings. It reminds me of Fort Bragg. Principle number 6, there's no dedicated recreational area. Their solution is a sidewalk and a wetland area. Moms won't let their kids play in the water, so go play in the street. That's what you're telling them. Principle number 11, this construction plan does not protect and preserve the mature trees. The work will destroy the natural areas and damages to tree roots, which will justify the removal of almost all the trees on the entire property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, Terry, I would ask you to take it, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Peyton Woody. I'm here on behalf of my brother, Nathan Woody. He lives at 6308 Hickory Hollow Road. Wow, I've seen some whoppers in my day. Just to be clear, no one here's paying me. I'm just here to represent my brother. I do this for a living. Very familiar with the ordinances and this process. Been through many rezonings myself. So very, very familiar with the process. Did a deep dive for these guys and really went in and dug into the ordinance and the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan aside, it does mention some multifamily stuff in there. It does talk about low intensity multifamily. Define low intensity. It's 5-6 units to the acre low intensity when it's surrounded by an average on one dwelling unit per acre. It's questionable, I guess. But what's not questionable is it compatible with the surrounding development? Since you guys all a very nice density map, I believe you all saw that. It's a very clear picture when you see that map that 5 to the acre surrounded by an average 1 is not compatible. It's not consistent, by no means. And for somebody to stand up here and say that it is, it's laughable. I would laugh, but I know it's not funny to these people behind me. It's just bad planning all the way around. When you look at the ordinance, I don't understand how. Are you guys being advised properly on this? How can someone present a plan to you that doesn't meet the bare minimum requirements of the zone they're trying to rezone it to? The MFR district clearly has a 50-foot minimum lot width. These lots are 26 foot wide. How can you vote to approve that when you're not meeting the minimum requirements? Same thing for the lot size. It's 7,000 square feet. Lots are at 2,900 square feet. How can you vote to approve something that doesn't meet the bare minimums? I understand it's a conditional zone. They can propose certain things, but they still have to meet the bare minimum requirements of the zoning district they're trying to zone it to. If it was a PUD, I agree. They could come back, they could propose their own lot sizes, their own dimensions, whatever, and you guys can vote to approve that. In this case, they have to adhere to the minimum. Well, let's at least see that. I won't repeat a lot of things everyone's already said, so I'll jump to it real quick. Lot sizes, I hit that one. The building types, when you get into the ordinance, it talks about building types, and all specifically section 9.3 of the ordinance. Groups of attached house buildings that are not integrated into a pedestrian-oriented mixed use is the key there. There's no mixed use components to this. Not integrated into a pedestrian-oriented mixed use urban pattern shall not be permitted in Jamestown. Shall not. That's very clear. There are no mixed-use components to this project. Whoever wrote this ordinance clearly understood that these townhomes need to be in an urban setting where people can walk to goods and services. That's why that's in there. I understand the ordinance has some challenges, too, when it comes to this type townhome development. 50 foot's very hard to do for townhomes. So somebody understood that, and the ordinance was written that way. Obviously, I can't cover everything in 3 minutes, but love to talk to you guys some more about these ordinance deficiencies
Thank you.
if you get a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Christina Reeser, 2621 Glass House Road. I'm standing in front of you today regarding the Guilford County property known as the Horse Farm. I believe the Technical Review Committee and the Planning Department had failed in their duties to properly inform you, the Planning Board, of all the factors and considerations needed to make an informed decision on this and previous developments. If you were to look up 1903, 1905, and 1915 Guilford College Road on the Guilford County GIS, select map layers, and select watershed, you will see this property is located within the Lower Randleman Watershed, WSIB, a critical and protected watershed with its own regulations and development restrictions covered in 15A NCAC 2B.0721. Per this regulation, a development that falls into this watershed has specific restrictions imposed on the density and build upon areas, something that the Planning Board and the Town Council did not take into consideration on the D.R. Horton and the 4718 Harvey Road properties. I also want to bring to your attention the LDO Section 4.4 Technical Review Committee 4.4-3 Powers and Duties, Section F, where it states, the TRC is to serve as the Watershed Review Board, exercising the powers and duties as set forth for the board in Article 19 of this ordinance. Then take a look at the TRC meeting agenda and minutes. Where in the meeting regarding the horse farm was the watershed requirements discussed? How does the TRC decision override oversight by NCDEQ and Army Corps of Engineers? Neither were present during this meeting, as composition of the TRC includes other agencies, individuals as appropriate on an as-need basis, per the LDO. This is what happens when you do your homework and rely on others to guide your decisions. This is what happens when you do not do your homework and rely on others to guide your decisions. I request the Planning Board to deny this request due to nonconformity of the Randleman Lake water supply, watershed, stormwater water requirements. And I leave you with this. Had anyone here done their homework, it would be clear that the proposed high-density development for the horse farm, 1903, 1905, and 1915 Guilford College Road, does not meet the criteria nor is consistent with the Randleman Lake Randleman Lake Water Supply Watershed Stormwater Requirements, Town of Jamestown LDO, or the comp plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janina Austin. I live at 403 Thornwood Road, the ETJ section of Jamestown. Much of what I was going to say has already been said, so I will just focus on my urging to you to deny the requested continuance. And the reason is because, as you have pointed out so wisely, the developer wants more time to change the layout and another possible entrance, but these are non-responsive to our main concerns of high density, effect on our schools. It's still going to affect our traffic. The road's not going to be widened. I think that this speaker, who came from Charlotte and has a lot of experience with these types of developments, elucidated a lot of our concerns more eloquently than we could, but we all support what he said. I think I'll just wrap it up there. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Newton. My wife and I live at 822 Jarman Drive. And I think it's been said more eloquently than I can say from the speakers that have spoken before me. My wife and I are new residents in this area, and we're probably the least qualified to speak. However, we do live just a few feet away. I'd say, when I say a few feet, maybe 50 to 100 feet away from the proposed development. And I think we've only been here recently, like I said, and I've noticed the signs, some of the signs in the area, keep Jamestown, Jamestown. And from the speakers that I only know a few of them, they've lived here for years, raised their families here, and they have really expressed what I think that you need to hear as the planning board. I mean, is this the kind of development that you would like to see in Jamestown? And I haven't read this entirely, but does it really comply with the envisioned comprehensive plan guiding principles? And from my understanding at this point in reading of the plan, it doesn't. So hopefully you will reconsider this matter. And like I said, my wife and I moved here recently. We're getting used to the area and understanding the framework and the geography. And we live right behind right beside the Mackey Point Phase 2, multifamily units that are going up. When we bought the home, there were trees that we loved. However, 9 months later, they came down, and now that development is here. You have Johnson Farm, trees, and such beautiful landscape in that particular area. That's going to be gone. Every time I drive by, I see all the trees that have been cut down. And what it's going to do for the water supply and the streams that run in that area is unknown, or by some professionals is known what could happen. And now that beautiful horse farm has been sold. The developers want to develop that. And I can't conceive of 99 units. I really can't conceive of 50 or 60 units really complying with the plan. So my last words are, keep Jamestown, Jamestown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other folks who want to come forward?
My name is Ricky Lewis. I reside at 6306 Hickory Hollow Road here in Jamestown. I really did appreciate reading the envision that whoever the committee was that came up with. It's a very interesting thought on how Jamestown should progress and how it should be. The two that caught my attention was actually the guiding principles 1 and 2. And with those, I started jotting down some notes because there was so much there that you can really expound on. But it would seem like somebody trying to impose some ideas of how it should be, and we already have a plan in place. And that plan is a very good plan, and to disrupt that with rezoning with multiple family homes seemed like it would be out of character for what's in the plan itself. So I agree with my neighbors that that plan is really interesting. Really, there's no logic that could be superimposed on a community because it's people that make the community, not a building. So really talking to the people and knowing what they think is very important. So we do appreciate you guys letting us have an audience here. Learning to appreciate the immersion of complex order people who live in them might help us better understand how we can build our future. That is responsible change. Jamestown has a unique sense of place, really kind of a unique sense of home. It has a small town charm. When I think of community, I do think of Jamestown. And that's really interesting because everybody that spoke here felt that same way. The community of Jamestown cannot be viewed from a distance. It can't even really be viewed from a map or even a diorama, some encased glass picture with buildings coming up and people moving them like a chess game. So really, they can't superimpose their ideas as to auction it off. because we have the plan here. We already have what makes Jamestown, and that's community. So the uniqueness of Jamestown can be appreciated not by doing that, but really by talking to the people, walking through the neighborhoods, and no map can even come close to that. I like everything that is related to something. I could think of a song, and when I think of the song, Change Paradise and put up a parking lot, I think about putting up a parking lot with buildings. You know, it's really interesting that such a unique place that we live in, this community, should not be auctioned off in this way. We should really look at us as a community, as individuals, and if you get a chance, you can talk and talk to the different ones there, but please reject this proposal because it doesn't make sense to rezone when we already have paradise.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the board at this hearing? I see no one coming forward, so I want to go to the next step, and that is to open for discussion with the board.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that, honestly, in the last meeting, one of the things I asked for was more thought going into what the plan was at the time. Meaning, we all kind of acknowledged that the number of units was, high. And the other side of it was the ingress, egress of where the road's located. What does that look like? Does this look like it would somehow, some way be potentially hazardous in the event of a fire or something else coming along? The only thing that I saw in the plan that was submitted, I guess, in the last week or so was that they changed one road and eliminated another. The number of units are the same, the layout is basically the same, and now they've got a bottleneck because there's only one way in and out on top of everything else. They want to extend this, but they've already said the point that the only thing that's really going to change potentially is a road change. The number of units, the density is going to stay effectively the same. So my first, overall point to the board is just, so what really has changed here in the last 30 days as far as what's been done? We had the residents ask for due diligence as far as they wanted more time to look through it. That makes sense. As far as the remainder of whatever the plan is, though, we've already had it set up front with respect to Mr. Bisco, or, sorry, I apologize if I screwed up your name. I'm awful at names. But with respect to the presentation earlier, there's not that much that is going to change, and it's already been said that it's not going to change. So, personally, I wasn't high on this to begin with, but I'm very much not high about continuing it out for another month. I don't know what the rest of the board feels like, but I wanted to say that and get that out there. And I'll stop talking.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
This doesn't seem to be compatible with the existing houses that are already there. I know that there's going to be some townhouses behind them, but that wasn't anything that Jamestown had anything to do with. That was Greensboro. And the compatible houses that are in our ETJ are certainly not compatible with this, in my estimation.
I think even the townhomes in Greensboro are not at this density. I think this density is way too high for the area. There's nothing that comes close to it, really anywhere close. And I don't think it's compatible with the envisioned Jamestown plan.
I will say one other thing, though, and I found this kind of appalling at the last meeting, was that, if you're going to have people representing you in terms of attorneys, and they're the ones that are actually saying they wouldn't want it in their backyard, which I've heard from 10 people because I've asked, I have to wonder, the logic of that in the first place. I'm like, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, in my opinion. I can't find anything here that really tells me that we need to do any more than what we've done. For the audience, just so you understand, we have to make a motion one way or the other that this goes to the council. The council makes the final determination. What we decide on here is whether or not we agree with the plan as presented or whether we don't. So that's the point and the purpose of us, is to review and make recommendations, and then once we have kicked it through here, it goes to the council for a final determination. So I want everybody to understand here, it can't just die with the planning board. It has to go to the council. They were elected, it's their responsibility. And I know that because I used to be on it. So I wanted to make that point, but I also don't want to suck all the air out of the room. Does anybody have anything else? Well, if that's the case.
Is there, we've mentioned the prospect of continuing.
Do we have to break that up, Katie?
It can die for lack of.
You don't have to continue it if you don't want.
We can just move forward
You
with
can
the
recommend
original.
approval or denial at this point.
So, does anybody want to make a motion for continuance? All right, cool. Based on that, I would make a motion that proposed zoning amendment be rejected based on the following, and that it's forwarded to the
Wait,
council.
1 second, John.
Sorry?
So we'll need just a motion to recommend approval or denial. I think that's the consistency statement.
Oops.
I think it died for lack of a motion.
So is there a motion to recommend approval or denial of this rezoning to council?
I recommend denial as a recommendation of the council based on the information we've been given. The developer will still have ample time, meaning they'll still have the same 30 days to bring it to the council with a different plan if they want to have such a discussion. And basically, they'll still be able to move forward with it based on that. But I don't think there's anything else we can hear, because frankly, they're not going to change the density or much else to go with it.
I'll second it.
Okay, this is a roll call. William McLean Jr. To recommend denial.
No.
You want to vote in favor of recommending denial? Or
This is on the,
Denial.
you want to recommend denial? Right. So if you're recommending denial, at this point, you'll say aye. Peggy Levi.
aye.
John Capes.
Aye.
Dennis Scholl.
Aye.
Russ Walker.
Aye.
Jane Walker Payne.
Aye.
Susan Stringer.
Aye.
Denise Johnson.
Aye.
Robert Kuhn.
Aye.
The motion passes. Now we need to.
Now I've stepped all over the consistency statement. Let me try that again. Okay, sorry, folks. Let's see. I make a motion that the proposed zoning amendment be rejected based on the following. This is the consistency statement. The proposed zoning amendment is not consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan of the town of Jamestown. The planning board finds that the proposed zoning amendment is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan because the suburban residential future land use calls for lower intensity uses to be developed in a manner similar to or adjacent to the similar development, and neither of these are met by this proposal. Number two, the proposed zoning amendment is not reasonable. The planning board considers the proposed zoning amendment to be unreasonable because A, the report to the town staff finding the proposed zoning amendment to be unreasonable is adopted by reference. B, the board further finds that the proposed zoning amendment is unreasonable because there is a disregard for guiding principles, including design standards that enhance and/or the quality of life, in the development, compatible with its surroundings, and avoiding the introduction of monotonous development styles. 3, the proposed zoning amendment is in the public interest. The board considers the proposed zoning amendment to be against the public interest because A, the report of the town staff finding the proposed zoning amendment to be against the public interest is adopted by reference. B, the board further finds that the proposed zoning amendment is against the public interest because it deviates from our adopted comprehensive plan in a way that is unreasonable to approve of as a conditional use. And this calls for a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is this a roll call?
Regular, just a regular vote.
Just a regular voice vote?
Yep.
Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. I hear no nays. Motion carries.
Thank you for not making me read it again.
this way.
Hey, folks, one point of order. This will go before the council, okay? This is, you still want to make yourself heard as far as the council is concerned. Understand that this is something that we refer to council to make the final vote on. So I don't want you to feel like you walk out of here tonight and that's just flat out the end of it. It still carries from. I can't, I'm sorry.
Come up.
No.
No? Okay.
Will the comments from the board, from this planning board be sent to town council?
They're actually watching it right now on the YouTube broadcast. That's what we have the camera up for. Yeah.
Russ, at this time, I would ask for a 10-minute recess to excuse the ETJ members from this meeting.
All right. We'll be in recess for 10 minutes. ETJ. recess is over. And we have another item on the agenda, and that is a request for rezoning of a portion of a parcel at near 100 Lennox Drive. Anna, you gonna make the presentation?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm here to speak out 2024-02 rezoning case. This is for Lennox Drive, 100 near Lennox Drive is the official address of this parcel. The proposed rezoning is from residential Main Street transitional to conditional zoning residential Main Street transitional. This is for just a portion of that parcel, 1.7 acres. There are some conditions. That's what the CZ is, conditions. The maximum number of units shall be limited to 24. All units shall be one-bedroom units. The building height shall be limited to 3 stories, exclusive of architectural roofline features. Maximum number of buildings shall be limited to 2. Both new buildings shall be placed on existing Phase 2 building location pads, and Phase 2 shall maintain its own separate dumpster and recycling area. This is an overview of the property. I believe all of you have had a chance to go by it. Lennox Square currently has 2 buildings. They both have 12 units in each, the 2 bedrooms, for a total of 24 two-bedroom condominiums. There are existing pads there that have existed since these buildings were originally built. The developer decided to build 2, and I believe this was right in the housing crisis, and that's how it ended up. So, as I mentioned, there are 2 existing condo buildings, 12 units each, and 2 empty building pads. To the north, it's bordered by commercial Main Street transitional zoning. The south, industrial and single-family residential. The east, Main Street, however, that property is vacant. And to the west, there's commercial Main Street transitional and industrial. There's a required open space and tree conservation area of 740 square feet and 7,405, there should be a .2 there, I believe, square feet. And the streets are Lennox Drive, and that leads out to West Main Street. Those open space and trees conservation areas can be easily met by this proposed plan. A little bit about the zoning history, and I believe Matthew went over this with you last month when I was out. It was originally zoned R9 when this was originally proposed and rezoned to meet these condominiums. However, in 2009, the town adopted the new LDO, and that changed the zoning across the town. So instead of R5, R3, R2, we have single family. Instead of multiple multifamily options, we have multifamily residential. Main Street area is now Main Street. Things that are adjacent to Main Street are Main Street transitional, such as this, residential Main Street transitional. So this parcel was rezoned to residential Main Street transitional. During that time, the density requirements changed. So whereas this was already approved to have 4 buildings at 12 units each, now instead of being able to build 2 buildings at 12 units each, they can only build 13 units total based on that new density. However, this was originally planned for 4 buildings at 24 units. The parking is adequate. I believe Dennis had a question last month.
I went up and looked.
They have 42 parking spaces. They only need 24, and that still leaves 46 for the existing condominiums, who also only are required of 24 by our ordinance. So an abundance of parking is available. They would share a stormwater feature that is already sized appropriately, and there would be no additional impervious surface as they will build off the existing pads. If for some reason those pads are no longer viable, they will still build on the pad locations as proposed in conditional zoning number 5. The decision before you today is, is this zoning district applicable to this situation? Is the request consistent with the comprehensive plan? I know Matt went over with you last month about residential Main Street transitional. This is the same, however, it'll be conditional zoning to allow them to build as this was originally intended. I want to be very clear that this decision is completely about zoning. If there are concerns about HOA and how this was advertised by themselves and with their own attorneys, that is not for our decision. The planning board's decision is, does this use make sense in this location? And I just want to bring that out there because I know that was a concern at the last meeting. So, TRC have reviewed the request and feel that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. You've all been briefed on this before. I believe the applicant is here to represent. I'll yield to them.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, the applicant like to be heard?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mark Isaacson. I'm an attorney in Greensboro, office at 804 Green Valley Road. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you. My law partner, Amanda Hodiern, is in another jurisdiction this evening, or she would be here. So you're stuck with me. I'm pinch hitting for her. Appreciate your patience. I'm here on behalf of Berkeley Communities. Sterling Kelly, one of the principals of that firm, is here to answer any questions that you all may have. As you all know, this is the resumption of a public hearing that was continued from last month. And we understand that since that time, there have been some communications among certain homeowners with their management company about this matter. As Anna indicated, there is a legally binding agreement between the Condominium Property Owners Association and Berkeley Communities that concerns these two vacant building pads. We're here for the reasons that Anna outlined for you about the rezoning to allow this project to move forward. Unfortunately, this project got caught up in one of the recession periods, and during that recession period after 2008, the zoning changed, and we just want to get back to where we were before that change occurred. So we see this as a fairly straightforward zoning request. As your professional staff has indicated, it is in concert with your Envision Jamestown plan. This is part of an interesting zoning category, as I would consider it, the West Main Street Transitional Plan, which contemplates mixed uses. And in fact, the description applies to the majority of land along West Main Street and is intended to accommodate a wide variety of low to moderate intensity uses, including offices, civic uses, attached residential development, and small format retail stores along this traditionally mixed-use corridor. So I believe you all have solid ground to stand on in approving this or recommending approval to the town council because it fits squarely within the description of that zoning category. I would also emphasize and ask you to be aware of what Anna has mentioned, that we've heard some discussion about, well, these may be built as apartments as opposed to condominiums. And what we're here to consider in your charge under North Carolina law is to consider the land use request, not who is behind the front door of any particular dwelling. And that's a concept in the Fair Housing Act and other laws in North Carolina and in our country, that we don't look at whether someone's paying rent or a mortgage. We don't look at what color they are or what other factors may lead to someone living in a particular dwelling. What we're concerned with here is solely the land use request. And we think that it's very compatible with what's on the ground already. And we're looking forward to seeing these two building pads completed. I know that's been a sore spot in the town for some time, and we hope that this will be the beginning of a process that will complete this development in a compatible manner. As Anna mentioned, it's already been before the town's technical review committee, which is a big step, and so we look forward to fulfilling the obligations that we have in this legally binding agreement between the Condominium Property Owners Association and the applicant here. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions the board may have, and we appreciate your consideration.
Any questions?
I don't at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all.
Are there others here who would like to be heard?
Thank you. My name is Sandra Click, and my husband and I are homeowners at 103A Lennox Drive in Jamestown at Lennox Square Condominiums. I am writing to you because I was the president of the COA board in 2023. And I believe you all have a letter that I had sent through Kate.
Yes.
Thank you. Although I was not present at the public hearing meeting on Monday, March 11th, 2024, because I was out of town, I was able to join the meeting on YouTube. I was part of the 2023 COA board who was tasked with the responsibility to make decisions and negotiations with Berkeley Properties on the sale of the 2 cement pads, Phase 2, located at Lennox Square Condominiums. There were 5 homeowners who served on the 2023 COA Lennox board. 3 of us served as president, secretary, and treasurer. The other 2 homeowners who are new to the community refused to serve in any capacity. They were the first 2 speakers at your March 11th meeting, Yolanda White and Ernestine Cherry. All Lennox Square board members were fully aware of all the information given to us by our attorney, Adam Marshall, law firm Carolinas, and Lauren Staton, our property manager from Priestley Management. All COA members were given all negotiation details at various times throughout the year at our COA board meetings. I have served as president of the Lennox COA for the last 3 years and off and on ever since I have lived here in the past 15 years. My working background is in property management of various types of properties. The secretary of the 2023 COA is a school teacher who is proficient in organizational and computer skills. The treasurer of the 2023 COA has had an extensive working career in the banking business. They both have lived at Lennox for quite a while and have served on this board for the past 3 years. All of this was to say we have had the knowledge of the community and the background of Phase 2 to make decisions for ourselves as homeowners, as well as for other Lennox homeowners who had voted us into the COA office to represent them. Blue Ridge, who is the builder of Lennox Square, had intentions of building Phase 2, which would consist of another 24 condominium units. Unfortunately for the existing condominium owners, Blue Ridge made the decision not to complete the community and to place Phase 2 of the 2 cement pads for sale. May I finish? Oh, okay.
We all did get copies of your
You do.
letter.
We've all got it.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Are there others who would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is John Skinner. I live at 200 Lennox Drive, resident in Unit 2D with my 86-year-old mom. And not on the board, but have the board has given us great service for more years than they probably ever expected, a lot of the board members. So Sandra, who just spoke, really appreciate her time. I'm a fairly new resident within the last couple of years. And I apologize for not being at the last meeting as a homeowner, but I am a concerned homeowner, and I am also the incoming president of the COA board at Lennox Square Condominiums. So I'm speaking from that perspective, but more obviously I'm not there, so perspective of a concerned homeowner. I'll just start off by saying basically my objective and a lot of the homeowners is still to respectfully but strongly request the denial of this rezoning from RMST to CZRMST to allow the density to increase in our development, to allow for this development by Berkeley to go forward with the plan of putting in one-bedroom rental units. And I know the gentleman attorney before me also said, and we're not to consider the front door with this type of request, but at the same time, as concerned homeowners, we have a very small little pocket up there, up in the woods, that's peaceful to us, and it's very small as it is, and it's very hard to see this type of density coming in, even as it was planned before. So a couple of things that I'm just going to mention about that. One is just the fact that we would have ownership with condominium owners, and then we would have rental participants in such a closed space, in a closed area with only one road in, one road out, and a loop. We certainly don't mind sharing the roads or anything like that, but it's already fairly congested as it is. A couple things I want to mention there. We kind of walk the spaces, and our parking is already full enough as it is when people are there. Assuming 2 spaces per unit or so, just to speak, if you have 2 people living in a unit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
My name is Sylvia Christopher, and I'm at Lenox Square 3D. I've been there just a couple of years. My unit faces the parking lots. And it's been my observation that many 18-wheelers coming in to service some of the adjacent businesses don't realize that they are coming into a rather small area, and they have difficulty turning around in what is now basically an open parking lot because there is not 2 buildings at those pads. My concern is what happens when these buildings are built and they're lived in, and people generally today have 2 cars. So we have to consider that parking lot is going to be, and most of the time our parking lot is at least half full. So my concern is what happens when we have an 18-wheeler, and I watched one the other day. He worked for probably 30 minutes to figure out that he didn't need to come that way. He was supposed to go down behind the Advance into Meineke, but he got himself in there and he couldn't get out easily. And I thought, well, what happens when you got cars or whatever? They're not going to be able to do that. So where are we there? I understand that there's legal agreements, and this is something that probably is going to go forward whether we like it or not. But I do think that it's a concern. They don't realize it's private. It looks like a city street, and it might be an outlet. There is no sign saying there's no outlet. Maybe that would help. I don't know if Jamestown, as city street would say, no outlet, might alert the driver that if once he gets in there, he's got to find his way out. There's not another way out. But that is, my concern, one of my concerns. And just the concentration. There's little or no green space. If you have young couples, there's no playground, there's no play area. Some of these things, most of the community now is either retired. We don't have little children. You open it up to one bedroom. You may have a couple and a baby, and they'll stay there until they have to move. What are we going to do there? Play in the street? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. else wish to speak?
My name is Ernestine Cherry. I live at 100 Lennox Drive. I've been there 2 years come May. I was on the board at one time under Sandra Cluck as our president. I need to mention that the day that the paperwork was supposed to be signed, and I think it's important that you all know this, there was 4 of us at this meeting. Yolanda White did not attend. It was myself, Sheila, and Ashley and Sandra at this meeting. So that leaves 4 people. And Sandra emailed all the board members stating that she can't vote for herself to sign the final document. And that's what our Zoom meeting, our special meeting was about. And I just need for whomever authorized this signature to go forward for them to proceed. Because I don't feel as though being a homeowner and on the board that anyone should have been able to go forward with this document, this supposed to be legal document, when there was not a majority of votes. Because there's 5 members. I said no. I have emailed to that I did not vote. Yolanda was not there to vote. So that left Sandra, Sheila, and Ashley. Sandra said she couldn't vote for herself, so that left 2 people. So what was the majority? Where did that come from for this document to go forward with the build of this development? Okay, so that's one thing. And I already mentioned about the parking. And that's a concern because as a homeowner, the majority of homeowners knew nothing about what took place or what was taking place. And I believe the attorney, not this attorney here, but another attorney who was here at our last gathering here, she mentioned that the negotiations were going on for 2 years. The homeowners knew nothing about this negotiation. And the board did not share that with the homeowners. So I would like for you all to take into consideration of what I'm saying because this property, in my opinion, does not need to go forward because I don't feel as though it was.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other speaker? Anyone else want to speak?
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Murray. I'm the second homeowner to purchase into Lenox Square. I've been there since October 30th, 2006. I have also served the board on numerous occasions. I was really upset to find out how the negotiations took place without the homeowners having any carnal knowledge. Our first indication or being notified took place early part or first quarter of last year. We were told by the board at that time that they would keep us updated as to what was going to take place or how the proceedings was going to take place, which we were not. Our annual meeting following that emergency board meeting, we were told, or we were under the impression that we didn't have any options. So therefore, to find out later that we did have options, but now we don't, I feel like that's lack of transparency and trust. I understand how the board members operate. However, if you have a 5-board member and only one has the deciding factor, then what's the use of having the other 4 board members? A board cannot operate or fully function just with one member. It takes, if it's already set up for 5 members, it should cooperate or work accordingly with 5 members and not just the sole member. So I don't have any objection to what Berkeley's idea of or wanting to build apartments. We would rather they be condos. I don't have an objection with a person being a renter. That's not my business. There is lack of residency throughout Guilford County, so I understand the growth. However, I feel that the way they went about this negotiation, I feel like was underhanded. It could have been dealt more sufficient and could have been managed a lot better. So it left everybody within the homeowners there with a bad taste in their mouth. So there are several people, and unfortunately, my neighbors who are looking and considering to put their units up for sale. And it shouldn't be that way. I just felt like how they managed it and how they came about with the negotiations was not conducive to everybody. So I think everybody here should have a say of what they feel at this point in time. I feel like this should be denied or put off because there should have been several things taking place.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Yolanda White. My address is 200 Lenox Square, Building 1C. Of course, I've spoken at the last meeting, and I also feel like maybe this should be tabled because I was on the board, and Sandra was correct. She did a very good job with this Berkeley transactions. We were at the board, but it seemed like we were limited to information. She continued to tell us that we could not talk to the attorney, that it was between her and Lauren, our Priestley management. So we were blindsided. We did not know what Berkeley, what the total negotiations were. And so I feel like maybe if we could get more time to gather this information. I know I've requested it before. This is something I've never encountered, but I thought I'd speak again and let you know how I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, seeing no one coming forward to speak, I'll open it for discussion amongst the planning board.
Can I ask a question? Would the rezoning, which I know is what we're deciding tonight, the rezoning would have to happen whether it's 1-bedroom or condos, right? Okay.
Yeah, because of the number of units.
Yeah,
Right.
based on number of units.
It's strictly a unit issue.
Yeah, and strictly, the main thing up for discussion is the zoning specifically. I mean, it sounds like there's some disconnects on who's talking to whom, but realistically, it comes down to us being able to say to the council, we support the zoning amendment or we don't support the zoning amendment. That's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, one thing I will share with y'all, and I think I mentioned it in the last meeting, forgive me if I did, but as far as Berkeley Properties, they are also the company that handled Courtyard Commons, which is more or less across the street. And you can, if you've been here for a decade, you got a pretty good idea of the quality of what's possible. So, you know, I'm not really going one way or the other than to talk about the zoning specifically, but I do feel like, from what I've seen at least, the property's in good hands. So I personally do not have a problem with the zoning amendment as it stands.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
How do you feel, Dennis?
I'm good.
Don't think anyone.
I don't think there's not much to say about that.
Yeah. So
I'll call for a motion.
all right, I'll make a motion that the proposed zoning amendment be approved.
I'll second.
All right, this is a roll call. John Capes,
Aye.
Dennis Shaw,
Aye.
Russ Walker,
Aye.
Jane Walker Payne,
Aye.
Denise Johnson.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, and now a consistency statement. I make a motion that the proposed zoning amendment be approved based on the following. Number one, the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan of the town of Jamestown. The planning board further finds that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan because the site was originally planned and sized for two 12-unit buildings. And number two, the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable. The planning board considers the proposed zoning amendment to be reasonable because, A, the report of the town staff finding the proposed zoning amendment to be reasonable is adopted by reference. B, the planning board further finds that the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable because the zoning is consistent with the current zoning and usage of the full parcel. And then finally, number three, the proposed zoning amendment is in the public interest. The planning board considers the proposed zoning amendment to be in the public interest because A, the report of the town staff finding the proposed zoning amendment to be in the public interest is adopted by reference, and B, the planning board further finds that the proposed zoning amendment is in the public interest because the proposed zoning will provide housing options that meet the needs for different stages of life and family situations. And this calls for a second.
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
And thank you all for coming out.
Yes.
Again, this has to go to the council, so they're the ones that make the final determinations, but it has to go through us as far as that's concerned. So please know there will be future meetings that are council-driven. You may want to appear to those.
Katie, do you have sign-ups for general comment?
Nobody signed up.
Nobody signed up?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.